So we're in the San Diego studio of Daphne Hill. Daphne's had 2 shows at UCLA. She's one of the dean's favorite. The dean wanted her to come back. So let's talk about your work a little bit. You started out doing non-medical work, just sort of decorative, I guess, fruit, things like that.
Yeah, I did. I did a lot of work on paper, and I drew. Actually, I drew hands holding fruit, and there was sort of kind of a feminist bent to it. I pulled from mythology and also some biblical stories, and just kind of um, made work about how women were scapegoated for a lot of the problems we have. Whatever, a lot of problems and troublemakers. And then I got pregnant in my last semester of graduate school, and I did graduate. And when I did that, I had to change the way I was making my work, but I not only changed from using oil-based media and so on and working on a large scale, but I changed the subject matter of my work. And so I started making things that were more abstract, but these organic shapes that were sort of like fetuses. And so thinking a lot about my pregnancy, and of course, every pregnant mother is concerned about the health of the child and how things are going, and so that was on my mind a lot in the last semester of graduate school.
So how did you get from drawing some fetuses to germs? So most of the work you showed at UCLA, it was all about germs and relationships and things that can be passed from one person to another, mostly sexually. Your work has sort of a playful sexual undertone of, oh, we can have this great relationship, but syphilis is always lurking in the background.
Yeah, I started making work about the interior universe and microscopic views of things. It was actually after I had my second child, and I started really making large-scale work again, oil paintings in the studio. And so it was, when they were both old enough to, be out of the house for a few hours a day. They were both in, preschool. And I started thinking a lot about, I have a sister with Down syndrome, and I started thinking about my life and how it, compares to her life. And, like that experience that I was having was something that she wouldn't have. And so while there was a lot of, it was a very joyful time, in a lot of ways, I also had a lot of sadness. I always, kind of have this sadness in my life, of course. And so I started making paintings of chromosomes, just really, as a way for me to sort of not necessarily work through it. It was therapeutic in a way, but I didn't make art as just a means of therapy. I was interested in making important work, and that's just what was important to me at the time, was really kind of dealing with my feelings about that, that one extra chromosome that can change everything. And so that made me start thinking about just random things that can happen and totally throw things off the course where you think you're going. And as a mother, you try to anticipate, you try to prevent things from happening to your children. And you can totally coddle them and do everything you can to protect them, but it might be the thing you never see coming.
So how did you make the jump from, like, chromosomal is internal, whereas you have your kids, they're healthy,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden you start worrying about external biological problems that could affect the health of people?
Okay, so I'm not totally paranoid. I'm not a hypochondriac. I know I seem like I am, but stories would catch my attention about, like there was some outbreak of E. coli, and a bunch of people got really sick, and maybe a few kids died because, little kids had a burger and they died. And so then there would be something about salmonella in the spinach, and so things that like spinach is pretty healthy, so you think you're doing something great for your family, making a home cooked meal with spinach, or maybe a spinach salad, and then so just these random things, and so I just it would interest me, and I'd start making work. I'd research it and see what are the effects, but also I was interested in what does that look like under a microscope.
So did you start for yourself, where your kids start worrying all the time that you were catching something?
No.
So it's really just a scientific exploration. It's not like you were going, my son's going to get this, we're going to get this. If we get a cat, we're going to get this from cleaning a litter box.
Right. No, I didn't worry excessively. I think that partly making the work kept me from worrying all the time. that's just kind of, that was my outlet for it. Instead of never letting them eat anything that's, from In-N-Out Burger or whatever, but you can control things only so much. So it's kind of it's the same way I feel when I get on an airplane. I don't love it, but I don't really have any control. So, I'm not going to not take a plane. So.
And I'd like to thank you, because if we ever get big with these videos,
Yes.
In-N-Out Burger will now not sponsor us. So, In-N-Out Burger.
No, I love In-N-Out. Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing this work and you do all this research. So one of the things you talked about in your talk at UCLA was sort of being a doctor's worst nightmare, because you've done all this research about every possible bacterial infection your kids could get sick. So since we're here to sort of help the med students in a way, let's talk about what maybe a med student might do or a doctor might do when someone like you comes in who has done lots of research that might have sent them in all sorts of weird paths.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to have to be a bit of a collaboration from now on, because there is so much information. We have access to so much information on the internet. And I get that can really, take up extra time in the office. But I do feel like you do need to, I don't know if it's indulge the patient a bit, or I wonder, isn't that good feedback from your patient to, maybe they've really thought enough about, maybe they know their bodies enough and they're able to describe their symptoms more accurately. And I don't know, but you go on WebMD and you've got a brain tumor with every little thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Almost everything can lend itself to something way worse if you're sitting at home at 3 in the morning with a migraine or something like that.
Yeah, we all become like Woody Allen or whatever. We all think it's the worst possible thing. So, I think that's just the reality, and hopefully it helps inform, the diagnosis, and I don't know, I think that's where we are. I try to not be a nuisance, I'm very friendly, and I try to, not overwhelm my doctor.
Okay, so why don't you show us these two pieces that were behind us?
Okay. So this is actually the first piece that I made on the round panel, the Tondo. And so at first, all I knew that I wanted to do was paint, what the sunrise looked like, what the sky looked like in the morning when I was walking my dog. And then the disease ended up being avian flu, because, I was thinking about the trees, and, of course, hearing the birds in the morning is a big part of my walk. So this is avian flu, which is really interesting to me because of the mutations that are going on in nature, something that I kind of keep in the back of my mind, wondering what's going to happen with that. These are both about Ebola, but this one's called Escaping Ebola. And when I started this series at the beginning of 2014, I was listening to NPR in the studio, and of course, at the time, we were hearing a lot about all the cases of Ebola and how that was sort of exploding in Africa, and so just that influenced my work. What I hear on the news, like I said earlier, the stories all the way back to when I had the kids. They were little, stories about Salmonella, E. coli, and then Ebola. So just again trying to really pull you in, trying to make something really seductive with layers and visually really appealing.
So I do work about scars, and people are always sending me scar stuff, and I know I always send you anything I find online about deadly diseases. So now, am I the only one, or do all your friends?
Very few people are that good to me and send me things that could be, treasure troves of information. So
they don't care about you.
They don't care about me like you do, and very few people. I think you sent me something about super gonorrhea one time, and I'm definitely on that. I'm really interested.
You're all about the super gonorrhea.
I'm all about the super gonorrhea. My kids are teenagers, and I have to hit them with some horror stories, and so nothing's worse than.
So when she did her talk at UCLA and she talked about super gonorrhea, I piped in and said, super gonorrhea, worst superhero ever. Nobody laughed. I thought.
I think I laughed. Yeah, I don't know. These kids.
I know.
They think they're untouchable, but yeah,
They're not.
they're not.